had, it had, I guess I should write that in there somewhere. It had pretty much died down, but it's still going on.
The Korean War?
Yeah, it's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
They sneak across. There's islands off of the peninsula too, and they will have a raid from North Korea onto the South Korean islands, and they've even taken over some of those islands. And then the South Koreans and the Americans had to come and kick them out and kick them back off.
Mm.
They're always doing something. But we made it hard for them. Now they've got what they call a demilitarized zone, and there's still soldiers. There's no Marines there now. But the soldiers still got that man. There are thousands of them still all the way across there. And it's got a big fence, and it's got landmines, booby traps, for miles. So if they decide to come across, they're going to pay the price.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the line. We got miles and miles deep of landmines, so they can't come across again.
Wow.
If they would invade again, they'd probably come around by ship and bypass the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Or the 38th parallel. Would be my guess. But that wouldn't work very well either, because I don't know what kind of a navy they got to transport their ships, you know. We could probably sink them before they got very far. What they do now, what they're doing now is shooting rockets.
Yeah.
Into South Korea. They do that all the time.
So what type, did you see much action when you were there?
No. No. It was pretty much winding down. What it amounted to when I was there was trench warfare.
Mm.
Shooting at each other from trenches, just like in World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every once in a while they'd try and take our trenches, and then sometimes we'd try and take their trenches, but I never got involved in any of that.
Mm.
Mostly it's just taking pot shots.
Yeah.
And trying to infiltrate. They'd try and infiltrate our lines, you know.
And you were also a corpsman, so you were more just
Yeah. I
patching people
I
up,
was
doing
there
stitches.
to save lives, not to take lives, yeah.
For sure.
Although we had to, what their philosophy was, the North Koreans' philosophy was that if they shot one corpsman, 7 Marines would die of wounds.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what you do is going out on patrol. They might send a 15-man patrol or a 20-man patrol off into the boonies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you try to ambush those patrols. And what their philosophy was is the first thing they wanted to do was shoot the radio man. And you could tell the radio man because he had a backpack on him with a big antenna sticking out. So they would shoot the radio man so he couldn't call in artillery on him.
Yeah.
And then the second thing they would do is they'd shoot the corpsman. Because they figured if they got the corpsman, then the rest, 7 of them would die of wounds, you know. Because there was nobody there to fix them. So what they started doing, first off, when the war first started, they were wearing the Geneva Cross, red crosses on their arms and on their helmets.
Yeah.
And they made a fantastic target for those North Koreans, you know.
Yeah.
And the corpsmen were being slaughtered. They had to bring corpsmen off the ships, and they weren't trained. They didn't have Marine training. So the corpsmen got slaughtered. So then the next thing they did was they get rid of those red crosses, you know, and then they would wait for the man with the Unit 1. Unit 1, it was a medical kit. I mean, it had everything in it. You could do surgery from that little medical kit you could. You know?
Yeah.
They'd wait for the guy carrying the Unit 1, and they'd shoot him. And usually the corpsman was in the very back. They'd shoot the corpsman in the back, in the very last one carrying the Unit 1 medical kit. And when I went over there, he didn't do either one. They had these, what they called dungarees, utility jackets.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a big side pocket here and here. And what we did was we'd put all of our bandages, everything, your morphine, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You look just like a big old fat Marine, you know. And instead of walking the very last, we'd walk maybe 2 or 3 from the last.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So what year were you in the Korean War? What year did you go into the Korean War?
I was in 52 to 56.
Ah.
And most of what we did when I was there was people stepping on landmines. They were everywhere. And a lot of time it was Korean kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They bring in these Korean kids with their legs blown off, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Stuff like that.
I knew it was a long shot, but I was looking up my great-grandpa. He was a...
Korea more and the Army, and the difference between the Army and the Navy is those Army guys were not very well trained.
No?
No. They were drafted for 2 years. Okay? They were drafted for 2 years. So you had to train them, and they would train them and send them over. And the Marines were enlisting for 3 years. So they had a year more training than the Army guys did.
Hmm.
So they fared better. Now, it's not that way. The Army guys now are not drafted. They're volunteers too, and they volunteer for 3 years, and they're just as well trained as the Marines are. But back then it wasn't that way. And their medics, we for the Navy corpsmen, we were really well trained. We were in 2 years before they ever transferred us into the Marine Corps.
Wow.
So we had been in medicine for 1.5 years, and the Army guys that were drafted, they didn't even have a hospital corps school. They just said, you're a medic. Go report to the doctor. He will train you.
Mm-hmm.
And he would train them how to put bandages on and stuff like that. But they couldn't do near the things we could do. I don't know if they could start IVs or not. We'd start IVs all the time. And we did minor surgery all the time. We put in stitches and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I don't think they could do that. They can do it now, I'm sure. But back then they couldn't. Because they only had them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the discipline wasn't very good in the Marine Corps, in the Army. We got a ride with the guy in his Jeep, this Army guy in his Jeep. He had his rifle down on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept it there all the time. It was dusty and beat up. And boy, if a Marine had done that, if he hadn't taken care of his weapon,
Yeah.
In boot camp, the Marines had to sleep with their weapons. This is my rifle, and stuff like that. They had to take care of those rifles. And if a Marine got a dirty rifle, he'd get court-martialed. And if they'd had one that dirty, they'd have sent him to Leavenworth for 20 years.
Mm.
You know what Leavenworth was? A military prison.
For 20 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The Marines would sock it to them. I've seen every chow. When I joined the Marine Corps, you go to the chow line, and they'd have a speaker system set up there.
Hello, Grandpa.
Are you back?
Yeah.